Okay, we are live, baby. We're gotta let it breathe just for a moment here, and then we'll fire off today's show. Lots to discuss, lots happening at Broncos HQ, and even not directly at Broncos HQ, but like Broncos orbit right now. We're going to get into it. Welcome in, everybody. It is the Huddle Up Podcast, presented as always by Mile High Huddle. I am your host, Chad Jensen. With me is my fellow football priest. You know him, you love him. He is Zack Kelberman. Zack, Brendan Langley. If you guys can remember, this was Denver's 2017, was it 17 third round pick?
Yeah. 101
All right.
overall.
Didn't last the Fangio changeover, basically, was his problem. Very raw, coming out of small school Lamar. Most people, I think, can remember Lamar or Brendan Langley. Dude is knocking out airport security like mega punch, dude, to the baggage claim.
Yeah,
Like,
it wasn't
the
even
heck?
security. He was a guy working behind the check-in counter for
Oh,
United
really?
Airlines. Yeah, a subsidiary of United Airlines,
right.
United Ground Express. And,
Guys, I really wish we could show you the clip, but because it's violence and whatnot, and the algo bots, you never know when they're going to pull your card and over what. But go to the site either while you're watching this or after at milehighhuddle.com. You'll see the headline: ex-Broncos corner Brendan Langley arrested after assaulting airline worker. And as Zach writes here, video of the incident went viral. Arrested last week, though, for allegedly striking a United Airlines employee at Newark Liberty International. There is a 57-second viral video, and it made the rounds on Twitter on Sunday, that showed the unidentified employee slapped Langley, who then proceeded to throw a series of punches, combination of punches, I don't know what, to topple the dude over, and he like flies over the check-in counter. So I would show you guys, but it's like I said, it's a little dicey. I'm sure some of you have already seen it, but Zach, what else is Langley up to besides getting arrested for trucking dudes at the airport?
apparently, he's signed with the Calgary Stampeders of the CFL, so that's what Langley's up to these days. Don't forget, he's a converted wide receiver. He was cornerback, then he became a receiver before he got cut by the Broncos. I'm laughing because I'm not glorifying what he did or defending what he did, but if you watch the video, it's kind of comical how the employee just falls backward, topples over, lands on the baggage carrier. It's very random and wild incident. He was arrested, though, Langley was, for simple assault, released on his own recognizance. He declared his innocence on Twitter as well. He said there was a target on his back by United Airline employees. I don't know about that one, but hard times for Mr. Langley.
But here's where it gets interesting. The employee who worked for subsidiary United Ground Express was terminated from his position, the United Airlines revealed in a statement. So apparently they viewed that some sort of wrongdoing, which I can only imagine on the part of the employee, which I can only imagine Zach helps Brendan Langley in whatever charge he was dealt there. But yeah, it's unfortunate for old BL.
Well, if you watch the video, I'm sure it's like a snippet of what actually occurred. It's only 57 seconds, but it showed the employee antagonize Langley or get in his face, and then I believe he threw the first slap. It wasn't Chris Rock, Will Smith slap. It was a light slap that both men exchanged, and then Langley just gives him a jab to the face that bloodied him, and it was a comical, kind of tragic scene for a former third-round pick, but not the Broncos' problem any longer, fortunately.
Oh, man. Hey, this is where we're at, right? Day 23 of May, and
exactly.
We've got OTAs to talk about. There is plenty to discuss tonight. Lots of developments today at Broncos HQ, but at the same time, you know, when something like this comes up in the middle of the offseason, we're like, from that movie Up, squirrel. You know, we're going to follow it down the path and see where it might lead. But a few quick hellos. Michael Ronquillo jumping in early. First on YouTube, we got Master Binks. We got Mark Hoynak. We got Carl, Dale Fleming, the Diamond Rattlers in the hizzy, Kathy Lund. The Duchess is with us. It's great to see everybody. Mile High Mike, Jeff Noyes. Let's see on Facebook. Whoop, the stream just did a little jumperoo on me. I'll scroll back up. But guys, it's good to have you with us. I'm going to quickly get to the main thing, Zach, that I want to discuss. There are quite a few remarks and things that happened today that we will get into. But first things first, we've talked about how The Seattle Seahawks, they won a lot of games with Russell Wilson. They had a lot of success with Russell Wilson. But before I bring up the comment today that I want to get into, Zach, let me ask you, in your expert opinion, did the Seattle Seahawks build around Russell Wilson?
Oh, man. I'm not going to label myself a Seahawks expert. I can't say I followed the Seahawks that closely during his time there. I don't know if they built around him. I don't really know what direction they went in. Sometimes it seemed like they were a defensive-oriented team. Sometimes it seemed like they couldn't have enough running backs. Then they went for the receiver route with DK Metcalf. I don't think they ever believed in Russ to build around him in the sense they thought he could carry the team regardless of the players you put around him. You can have Will Dissly at tight end. He's going to make do. You can have a random receiver and Russ is going to get him the ball. So I don't think they built around him with that in mind, but you also have to consider they didn't let him cook. There was a whole hashtag and a movement that went into that. So it would lend me more to the opinion that they worked in contrast to what Russell Wilson wanted, not in coinciding with what he wanted. So I don't know that they built around him specifically.
I guess it would depend on how you want to define that. But to me, look at any situation across the NFL where it's a bona fide, entrenched, no doubt about it, franchise quarterback like Aaron Rodgers, with the exception of the misguided Jordan Love pick a couple years back. Every selection, every free agent move is kind of meant to complement the main piece one way or another, even if it's on the other side of the ball, which was Aaron Rodgers. From a philosophical perspective, everything you do is kind of geared around this is the identity of our club is, the Aaron Rodgers and the Aaron Rodgers offense, and that's how we're going to roll. I don't think Seattle ever tried to embrace or assert, foster, cultivate a philosophy or an identity that was Russell Wilson centric. And why am I saying all these things? Because even though, Zach, it's not the first time that we've heard these type of words from Nathaniel Hackett, today when he was asked something as simple as, hey, it's OTAs, you're working on situational stuff today, a lot of red zone work, etc. No pads yet, but what are your expectations for Russell Wilson, who is a transplant? Here's what he said, quote, I think it's all about just the command of the system. We want to build this thing completely around him and make sure he's comfortable and watch him come alive. Now, we can get into some of the other things he said in this particular remark, Zach, but to me, that's a clear signal that the Broncos, maybe I shouldn't say they're not going to make the same mistake the Seahawks did, but they're learning a little bit from maybe some of the Seahawks' misguided team management in that, hey, you've got a gift horse here. Don't look him in the mouth. We're going to go ahead and ride this gift horse because it's a gift horse.
Yeah, exactly. They're treating him like a franchise quarterback. They're treating him like a 9-time Pro Bowl or former Super Bowl champion. And in Seattle, it seemed like, especially in the later years, they just took that for granted. Oh, it's Russell Wilson. He's number 3 on the Seahawks. He's not a 9-time Pro Bowl. We don't.
Sorry.
Let's see that Cortland Sutton TD in the end zone. Love it. I think the Broncos, after walking the desert, even though Hackett wasn't here to walk with them, they are treating Russell Wilson the right way. And if you think about it, Chad, when you were, I was thinking about your question, did they build around him? Really good question. During their glory years, they really weren't known for Russell Wilson. They were more so the Legion of Boom or a Marshawn Lynch. He was always kind of the also ran. He was like the sub plot line, the footnote. In the Broncos, he's the headline. He's on the deck. You know what I'm saying? So that's the difference between Seattle and Denver. They're treating him as he should, giving him the proper respect. And I, for one, love that.
And I don't know if it's because, Zach, and by the way, GLP, it's so great to see you, buddy. Thank you for the super stars, I'm going to say, on Facebook. For what it's worth, since we got GLP throwing down early in the show, I'll show you guys the update as it relates to the stars contest on Facebook, trying to reach 200K this month. If we do, we're going to raffle off a Broncos jersey. Could be one of these Demaryius Thomas jerseys right to my left. The only people in the running, those who contribute to the goal. And the more someone's contributed, the more tickets they're going to have in the hat, the better their odds, and so on. GLP right now, Zach, is in front easily. Pole position, followed by Mark Schrader, who informed me he did receive his jersey because he won a little something last month. Tim Hoffman, Jacob, the silent one, Foster at 4, and then Phil McLaughlin rounding out the top 5. Now, if you're not in the top 5, doesn't mean you're not in the running. You're going to have some tickets in the hat, trust. But all we can do when we do these screen grabs is the top 5. So appreciate that. And then last thing on that subject, as you can see here on the ticker, right below our faces, we are at 35% complete to the goal. All right. And we only got a week left. So if we are going to get the goal this month, this is make or break week for what it's worth. But Zach, that's the thing is, I don't know if it has something to do with the fact that Russ was not a coveted, premium first round pick guy in terms of his draft stock. It's like kind of the same thing we've seen befall the Chris Harrises of the world now and like Philip Lindsay's of the world. I get it, different animal. We're talking about undrafted guys in that particular camp. Russ was drafted. He was a 3rd round pick. But it's something like, hey, we didn't think you were good enough to begin with. And you almost have to, from then on out, everything you do has to be that much greater in order to kind of prove or showcase that you belong, where even at the highest levels, guys like Harris and Lindsay, who were getting Pro Bowls, guys like Russ, who won Super Bowls, almost won back-to-back Super Bowls, 9-time Pro Bowler. And then I think it's the reverse psychology where maybe, Zach, it's because Seattle didn't invest this big draft pick. And, they were planning on, they had paid Matt Flynn. That was the plan. Russ was like backup, hey, guy to develop behind this veteran we're going to sign that, was groomed behind Aaron Rodgers. Russ comes in and completely pulls the rug out from under that dude, makes him a joke, vanquishes him in no time flat, starter on day 1 of his rookie year. Maybe it has something to do with they never really expected in the beginning anyway, Russ to be that guy. I don't know.
Based on what I know about the Seahawks, they didn't draft particularly well or sign very good free agents during the last 5 years of that Pete Carroll, John Schneider regime. They never replaced Richard Sherman in the secondary. They never replaced Jimmy Graham in tight end. They never replaced Marshawn Lynch in the backfield. They tried, but they wasted bad draft picks on the likes of Rashad Penny and Chris Carson. They never gelled in that offense. They never made the offense that much better or easier for Russ to manage. And on top of that, when you have a coaching staff that's so intent on not letting Russ throw the ball, despite him being one of the best deep ball throwers in the NFL, it leads me to believe that maybe he wasn't in the best situation. Maybe he wasn't being fostered in the best culture. And maybe ownership, Paul Allen out there in Seattle. I believe it's Paul Allen, right? Or did he pass?
Yeah, no. As far as I can remember, but
I don't know.
Cover the beat every day.
I think the upper management in Seattle took Pete Carroll and Schneider versus Russell Wilson, and that might blow up in their faces drastically. And I hope it does.
They've got the equation backwards. It's not, you got the GM, you got the coach now. They can build it. It's, do you have the quarterback? Because as the Broncos have proven over the last 6 years, if you don't have the quarterback, all the top defensive czars and up and coming star coaches and in the world will not avail you. Even Super Bowl winning head coaches like Gary Kubiak, without the quarterback, will not avail you. Guys, real quick here, update on the Super Chat contest on YouTube here in the month of May. Top 5 finishers also get a chance at the Broncos jersey of their choosing. We've got some movement. DWI guys in the top 5, still at number 1. The Duchess has leapfrogged. She is at number 2. Michaela Parker, Michael Ronquillo at 3, Pobby at 4, Tanner at 5, and then Sam Bam climbing up into 6. D-Dub at 7, Shane 8, Mark the God King at 9, Naj, some of the names everybody recognizes. Just giving you an update on that. Michael, dude, thank you, buddy. Appreciate the super, helping to solidify your spot in the top 5 this month. You are a prince. We really appreciate you, big dog. All right, so Andrew Baker jumping in here to say, what's up, fam? Is the offense gonna be a mesh of Nathaniel Hackett and Russell Wilson, or does Nathaniel just let Russ drive or cook as it be? Hashtag MHH for life. What's your thought on this, Zach?
Combination of both. I mean, he's not going to call his own plays exclusively Russell Wilson. That's why Hackett was hired to be the head coach and play caller. But he's going to give Russell Wilson full autonomy where if he wants to check out of a play or audible, he's going to do just that. He's going to have the confidence where You're going to let Russ cook in terms of throwing the ball deep, pushing it downfield, taking advantage of Russ's arm. And all the reports and indications out of OTA practice today was that Russell Wilson's arm was solid. The arm strength was visible. The ball was popping out of his hand. You saw the pass to Cortland Sutton. It looks like a renewed Russell Wilson physically, and I think mentally, psychologically, spiritually in Denver. He's reinvigorated, remotivated, and Hackett is the perfect guy to get that out of him and push him to that next level. But it's going to be a combination, a two-man operation.
Definitely. I mean, it's going to be symbiotic, but I do think the first thing Hackett said when the name Russell Wilson was broached today was literally, quote, "I think it's all about just the command of the system," close quote. Now, we know that the philosophy that is fostered by George Payton and that is also shared and fostered by Hackett and his entire coaching staff is to scheme around the talent. So it's not so much a matter of the scheme is more important than the talent, but you got to have a scheme. You got to have a playbook. And so that's what Hackett's talking about here is command of the system. That's not going to be a problem for Russ, I don't think, in the final analysis. But at the same time, you can believe that whether it's Russ bringing in a few of his favorites from his time in Seattle or Russ sitting down with Hackett side by side and thumbing through the playbook and showing him the plays that are in his own playbook, hey, these are the ones I like. Can we tweak them just a little bit to fit perfectly the plays I was running in Seattle? Those type of, those type of working together partnerships, collaborations. But as much as I think Russell Wilson's going to pop in year one, and he's going to have a kind of Peyton Manning-esque renaissance with the Broncos in his new football home, you're probably not going to see him reach the peak level in the scheme until year two. That's typically how it shakes out, even for the veterans. I mean, look back at Peyton. Comes to Denver in 2012. Everyone's kind of left him for dead. Broncos kind of get off to a rough start, and then, the San Diego game, they come back on Monday Night Football. They go on an 11-game winning streak. I mean, through whatever it was, Zach, it was some 37 or 38 touchdowns that year. Would have won MVP if Adrian Peterson doesn't rush for over 2,000 yards a year removed from suffering a torn ACL. The next year, though, as good as that was, and I'm going to serve this back to you, what happens in 2013? Boom. Record book, 606 points, 55 touchdowns, 5,477 passing yards, etc. And you can say, well, no, Mike McCoy left after 2012. That was his coordinator. He went to coach the Chargers. That was Adam Gase. That was also his first year in the scheme. No, it wasn't. The scheme stayed in place. It was just Adam Gase got promoted from quarterbacks coach to be the coordinator. It was the Peyton Manning, Mike McCoy scheme that stayed in place.
It also takes quite a bit of time to get that chemistry down. And I don't mean just basic chemistry. I mean, throwing a ball before the receiver even turns around, knowing what the receiver and the quarterback are thinking at the very same time. And he has to do that with multiple people, not just one receiver, but you're talking about a deep receiving core, deep backfield, tight end room. It's a lot for Russell Wilson, but when he was given input into the Broncos free agent moves, when he's given input into the Broncos war room and who they're drafting, it's fair to say he'll have quite a bit of influence over the playbook, over play calling. But like Chad said, you have to have a scheme. You have to have a coach calling plays. Fortunately, the coach and the quarterback are both going to be aligned and simpatico in the best ways.
Eric Weber, hey, buddy. Appreciate you, my friend. Mile high salute right back at you. Appreciate the props for the MHH crew. We really do appreciate that, my friend. Longtime member of our community, especially on the Facebook side. So it's great to see you. Zach, on the topic of OTAs today, a reminder to everybody, this is still the voluntary portion of OTAs. Now, it used to be, Zach, voluntary. Hey, still mandatory. Like, they can't put that in writing, but everyone knew, even as post the 2011 CBA, like if you think of the lockout, that was 2011, then you got the new CBA. So the John Fox era, people were not missing OTAs under John Fox. They weren't missing OTAs under Coob, with a few exceptions, like Kareem Jackson today. Wasn't there because his daughter, he was present for a graduation thing, that's going to happen. But like straight up not showing up, etc. I don't know how you might view that. Nathaniel Hackett kind of brushed it under the rug today, but Bradley Chubb, Zach, not in attendance. Melvin Gordon,
Thank you. There it
not
is.
in attendance.
Why?
Whiskey,
Second year,
Tango,
second year in a
Foxtrot.
row. I thought that was a pun, Chad, considering his Merlot incident. But yeah, why isn't he there? Again, this was the same thing. I believe it was last year or 2020. I think it was last year where he didn't show up to OTAs. I don't care too much. They are voluntary, but this is a guy who literally begged the Broncos to re-sign him. They did. Now he's joining Javonte in that backfield again. You're not going to come to OTAs? I don't know. I don't understand it. Not a big deal, but not a good look either for Melvin and company.
No, it bothers me. And again, I get it. It's voluntary, but if your teammates are there, you should be there. Sorry. Unless you've got a legit
Right.
excused absence type thing, like in the case of Kareem, like you charge that one to the game. What are you going to do? I mean, it's voluntary. I get it. But the dude's daughter graduation, I think, is what Justin Simmons talked about today. So those things are going to happen. And as a team, you roll with those punches. But like, are you ready to like fight and die with us, Bradley Chubb? Are you ready to fight and die with us, Melvin Gordon? Like, I would be questioning that if I am the players there. Maybe I'm making too much out of it, but if I'm there, I'm wondering, why aren't you here? Travis, it's so good to see you, big dog. Yeah, he says, hope everyone had a good weekend and enjoy and a great start to your week. Very kind. Hope you did as well, my friend.
Jerry Jeudy was there. I mean, he just got arrested. He was in sweatpants. He didn't practice, but he was there. And I know they're voluntary. It's May. Not much to talk about. It doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, yada, yada. But I'm right there with you, Chad. If I'm going to be there, I'm going to be sweating and working my tail off. I want you next to me, you sweating and you working your tail off as well. It doesn't send the right message that these guys are all in. And for someone like Bradley Chubb, especially, whose career is at such a crossroads and he's healthy now, you think he wouldn't be sitting out any practice, voluntary or not.
It's questionable. It's not end of the world stuff. It's just pieces to the puzzle, you know. Phil, appreciate you, buddy. Appreciate the stars. You are the man. Love it, dude. Let's ride indeed. Notice today that's how Russ ended his presser. Let's ride. I mean, that's his thing. He's decided that's his thing. He's going to end every press conference with that, and that's cool. He's got a little catchphrase. Good for him. Mike Postle says, Seahawks didn't do well protecting Russ with the O-line. Carson wasn't a bad late pick. He's solid, as is Rashard Penny, but they couldn't stay healthy outside of Lockett and DK. Seahawks haven't had a well-rounded offense, and O-line, as always, is underrated and underappreciated. Well, that's the thing. I mean, they invested in DK, but most of their picks during the Russell era were building on defense, you know, always trying to keep that defense. And I understand it because as good as Russ is now, he wasn't that guy his second year when they won the Super Bowl, when they beat the Broncos. Like, if you don't have the Legion of Boom, you're not going to upset, you know, the most prolific offense in NFL history. So that's the first, in the modern way of thinking anyway, Zach, NFL teams got it into their heads. Hey, defense wins championships. We've heard that. We all agree that defense, if you don't have a legit defense, you're not winning a championship. That's true. But that was the Super Bowl, Zach, that really created a new school of thought that the Broncos even fell prey to after Super Bowl 50, that, hey, you know, we're one middle of the road quarterback away from winning it all, so long as we've got the defense intact. And that was really the philosophy that the Seahawks kind of fostered, even though Russ was the furthest thing possible from a middle of the road quarterback, but he was young. He was inexperienced, etc. Do they win the Super Bowl over the Broncos without that defense? Probably not, although the Broncos definitely were in a funk that day. Like, that was literally pick every day of that month of February, that would have been the worst possible day for the Broncos to show up and play football. That happened to be it.
They've been terrible drafters, the Seahawks have, the last few years, whether it's overdrafting a running back or trading out of the first round or not taking a quarterback like in this year's draft when your only quarterbacks on the roster are Drew Lock and Geno Smith. They've made some boneheaded decisions from the personnel standpoint. And as I mentioned, they've done nothing to replace Marshawn Lynch. You combine Penny and Chris Carson, they are nowhere close to Marshawn Lynch. They have not done enough on the offensive line. They shouldn't be underrated and underappreciated. That's what I've been hammering the Broncos for, not investing in a premium right tackle. If the Seahawks didn't have a quarterback that was so adept at moving around the pocket and making chicken salad out of chicken, you know what, it would have been a lot worse for them. But they've made really stupid decisions. Look at the Jamal Adams trade. They tried to rekindle Legion of Boom with this safety who wasn't worth nearly what they gave up for him, and that put him in personnel hell because they gave up so much compensation. So I'm starting to think, based on what I've seen before, during, and after the Wilson saga, the people in Seattle are pretty incompetent. I got to say, John Schneider, he's fallen from grace. Pete Carroll, fallen from grace. I think it's going to be a steep decline for them too.
Not figuring out a way to make it work with Russ is going to be the worst indictment that, they're going to have to figure out how to live with. Big Earn, it's great to see you, my friend. Zach, I got a question for you. So we've heard this a few times from Nathaniel Hackett when he talks about a touchdown, Tugalicious. Even the Broncos PR department, when they provided today's quotes to us, Zach, he talks about Tugalicious. It's a touchdown. If you guys can see that, hopefully. Do you think he's saying Tug-alicious or Tud, like Tuddy, touchdown, Tud-alicious? Give me your interpretation.
If they're transcribing it Tugalicious, I think it's Tugalicious. I'm not wild about that word. There's something very, I don't know, effeminate to it, but I'm not big on Tuddy either. So,
dude, it doesn't make sense to me. What does a tug have to do with a touchdown? I don't know. Tud, because you hear people say Tud, Tuddy. That I could understand. So that's why I'm wondering if there's some kind of a wires crossed happening there. But real quick, Zach, he can
call him whatever he wants as long as they get in the end zone. I don't care, in the grand scheme.
True. So Nathaniel Hackett, why was Jerry Jeudy there today but not practicing? Kind of swept that one past real quick. Hey, we're just making sure that everybody's good. Okay, coach. Hey, what about the guys that no-showed? Wants to remind everyone, hey, this is all voluntary. It's one of the things. And the great thing is that a lot of those guys communicated and talk with me. That's all I can ask. Whoever's out here, we're going to coach them and have some fun. Those guys reached out to me, and it is voluntary. Okay, cool, whatever. But this is intriguing, Zach. Forgive me, I can't remember who it was asked this question, but Netani Muti, who in many respects has almost become kind of the overlooked, forgotten man at the interior O-line competition that's shaping up, asked about it. Hackett kind of gushed. He said, quote, on what Muti has shown over the last few weeks, quote, he can run. For a big man, he can run. I think that's one exciting thing about that. He's a very huge person, and he's able to get off the ball, run sideline to sideline, and do the outside zone stuff. We know that he can get everything downhill. But I think to be able to show that he can do outside zone too has been something really good, close quote. So perhaps, Zach, we should not be sleeping quite yet, or go to sleep completely anyway, on Netani Muti.
Where does he play? I wonder, does he take Reisner's spot at left guard? Is he taking Miners at right guard? Or I don't think he's playing center over Cushenberry. So I like the fact they have a younger developmental guard in Muti, and I like his 2022 upside a lot more than I do Luke Wattenberg, the 6th round pick, who will need probably a year. But Chad, just to touch on the previous quote and just to touch on the previous topic, according to Chase Wellner, Melvin Gordon was on a podcast today. Can't really say that's a priority. I agree with you, Chase. And Melvin Gordon mentioned that on Twitter. So what Hackett said, they reached out to him. He said it's voluntary. So Melvin reached out and said, hey, I'm going to be on a podcast. I can't practice today. Is that okay? I just don't like the message that it sends, honestly. I want to know why they didn't show up.
One thing I'll throw out there, though, we don't know if it was a pre-record. That could have been recorded at any point in the past. It could have been recorded yesterday and uploaded today. It could have been recorded 2 weeks ago and uploaded today.
I guess if the point is, if he has time to be on Twitter today, he should have been at practice today.
Amen. Amen. From your lips to God's ears on that one. It's, I don't know, maybe it's a feeding into our preconceived notions about Melvin Gordon. I don't know.
I think that about Chubb and any other player except for Kareem Jackson who didn't show up, who didn't have a valid excuse. If you had no, like you said, Chad, burning reason that you can't be there, you should have been there. And George Fox feels the same way. George says you would think with new coaches that any and all would be there for even voluntary, DB for life, MHH for life. I'm right there with you. Unless you have a medical emergency, a family obligation, emergency, whatever, you should be there. Your ass should be on the grass.
George Fox, good to see you, bro. He says you would think with new coaches that any and all would be there for even voluntary. Denver Broncos for life, MHH for life. Yeah, I mean, again, I don't want to like make it it's some make or break thing here, but it's just a piece to the puzzle. Bradley Chubb, I would think, would be wanting to take every opportunity he could to maximize his contract year. And this is an opportunity to do that. I don't know. We don't know what the reasons were for Chubb. We don't even know what the reasons were for Gordon. The only reason we know in Kareem's case is that Justin Simmons kind of volunteered that. But it's conspicuous.
Yeah, I don't know the reasons. I just know that he begged to come back to Denver. He wanted to come back so badly, and now he's not going to show up for a practice. So I hope it's not a sign of things to come, but it doesn't lend much to his reputation.
I want to come back to the Muti thing real quick here, because you said, well, where's he going to play? Like, who's he going to unseat? Netani Muti probably isn't being viewed, even as sounds like anyway. He's impressed his new coaches. But then again, Nathaniel Hackett strikes me as the type of guy that you mention a guy to him on the spot in public setting, he's going to come off positive about that guy, regardless of what his personal view might actually be. But that being what it is, Netani Muti, they're probably not viewing him as a real threat to start, but they have to have, you got your starting trio. And I think it's safe to say that's going to be 3 of the following 4 dudes are like the favorites. All right. Dalton Reisner, Lloyd Cushenberry, Quinn Miners, Graham Glasgow. 3 of those 4 dudes are probably going to start at those 3 interior spots, but you still have to have, a couple of swing guys waiting in the wings, someone who can play some center, someone who can play some guard. Muti, who's he competing with in that sense? He's competing with the newcomer Ben Braden, the rookie Wattenberg. Trying to think of some of the other kind of fringe guys, but if that's, I mean, his prospects of making it, if he keeps up the momentum, might actually be better than we think.
I guess I meant, where would he play if he had to? I mean, what position do they envision Netani Muti playing? Because we don't know anything about the offensive line, Chad. We know left tackle is Garrett Bowles, and right tackle more than likely will be Billy Turner, who, by the way, didn't practice because of a knee issue. So right tackle alert, they're not set there just because they signed him and signed Calvin and Tom Compton. I just want to know where they're going to play these guys. Where is Glasgow playing? Where is Muti playing? Where is Miners playing? What is Butch Berry doing with these offensive line pieces? That's what I want to find out.
Also on that subject, since we're bringing up offensive line, we're talking about Butch Berry. He was asked today, Hackett, on what is, because the Broncos, they ran a little zone last year with Pat Shurmur, but it was more of a power blocking scheme. They did run some inside zone, but you didn't see a lot of those wide zone stretch type of runs, and you certainly didn't see it out of 2-back sets and fullbacks, lead blocking and whatnot. So a lot of these guys on the O-line, they're picking up something new as far as the zone, the true blue zone blocking scheme. What's the biggest challenge, Hackett was asked, for those guys trying to learn outside zone scheme? And he said, quote, "The outside zone, I think it's that ability to run off the ball. I think that in the end, the big boys want to go downhill. You want them to cover sideline to sideline while understanding the angles, understanding the different targets, and being able to trust that you can run if you don't waste any steps. Then you want to attack those aiming points and utilize your partner to be able to still get vertical push, but make them, the defense, cover the whole field. I think that's kind of the overall perspective of it," close quote. For nerds, football nerds like us, I loved hearing that stuff.
Yeah, me too. And it lends more credence to maybe Cushenberry shouldn't be counted out at center. If there's one thing about him, it's that he is athletic and he can run. So that should appeal to Hackett and Butch Berry as well. Not saying he's going to be a locked-in starter, but those counting on his demise, it might be greatly exaggerated as of right now. We'll have to wait and see.
Phil, throwing down. Appreciate those stars, big dog. Climbing those rankings. Hey, what's this? Also, we've got the he's joining us from Zeta Reticuli quadrant of the galaxy, Zebulon Omega. What's up, bro? He says, is Justin Simmons dropping info like that to throw shade at other guys to start a fire in them maybe? He's a guy that absolutely sees the opportunity this team has now and is probably disappointed. No. Simmons, that whole him bringing up where Kareem was, he was asked about, let me see. Here we go. PJ Locke, who had a nice play today. I think it was a pick that PJ Locke, depth safety, right? And so here's what he was asked about PJ's play today in practice. Quote, this is Simmons. PJ is great. We always preach about the next man up. One of the guys goes down. You always want to have the guy behind him to plug in. And it feels like you're not losing a step. PJ is the epitome of that comment. Kareem Jackson and I, just in the 3 years that we've been around him, PJ, the questions he asked, the attention to detail he has, we're coming and we're asking Coach a question. He's like, what made you think of that question? It's questions like that, and it's the reason why he steps onto the field. I felt like there was not a step lost. Obviously, there's no replacing Kareem or replacing other players, but it was easy, a flow of communication. So he's explaining that. And then later on, after that subject was broached, he asked, so who replaced Kareem Jackson as the trash talker in Monday's practice? He said, I tried, but, that's kind of K-Jack's thing. And that's where he talked about how he's at his daughter's graduation, he thinks. So it was just organic, Zach, the way I view it anyway. It came out in the wash. It wasn't Simmons trying to call anybody out. And how could you? I mean, that's the one exception. Like, you got a family issue, a funeral, you got a graduation, you got a wedding in your family, like in your immediate family. Okay, then you missed, 1 day of voluntary OTAs.
I didn't take that quote as him throwing shade. I actually took that as him defending Kareem Jackson, or at least complimenting him, talking about him in a positive light. He loves Kareem Jackson. Justin Simmons does. And Simmons is not one to throw shade either. So I don't see any combativeness in those comments at all.
No. And for what it's worth, Ben, good to see you, bro. Appreciate the stars, my friend. You are a prince. For what it's worth, Justin Simmons, man, he is still very high on Michael Ojemudia. Ojemudia came up twice today in the pressers, and what Simmons had to say about him, especially as how he kind of finished, because last year was disappointing for OJ. It was his second year, and he started off hurt, and that came on the heels of the Broncos kind of drafting a replacement to him, basically, and Patrick Surtain the second, and so he missed most of the season, and then when he was finally able to contribute and the Broncos called on him, he impressed his veteran teammates. This is just a quick snippet, Zach, of what Simmons said today about Michael O. Quote, I don't think that it's easy to come in and play fairly well during your rookie year and then he cuts himself off. Obviously, we drafted Pat and then picked up Ronald Darby and picked up Kyle Fuller. Now, all of a sudden, you're taking a back seat, former third-round pick. For him to come in towards the end of last season and play like he did, I thought that he played outstanding when we played the Chiefs at home in the last game of the year. And I think that's just a testament to his work ethic and the things he is doing right. So I could go on. He talks quite a bit longer about Michael Ojemudia, but maybe we shouldn't be sleeping on this cat.
I mean, teammate praises teammate. Story at 11. What else is he going to say in OTAs on May 23rd? And with respect to Simmons, his opinion does hold weight and carry water, whatever the expression is. I want to see Ojemudia do it on the field. Stay healthy, go out there, don't drop interceptions, get your head around, find the ball, and prove you can be a former third-round cornerback who can contribute to a stacked secondary. I want to see Ojemudia prove that on the field because they have a couple cornerbacks, especially Jaquan McMillian, who they got as a UDFA, that can push him for a roster spot fast.
See, I think you're to an extent you're right. Simmons isn't going to get up there and when a young player's name is broached, he's not going to dog anybody. But you look at, he's a pretty effusive guy. When he talks, Simmons says a lot. And as someone who has transcribed many of his press conferences, that's something I can vouch for. But Zach, on the day, that was his biggest word count comment, was talking about Michael Ojemudia, which, hey, maybe it's nothing, probably is. But if you look at what the Broncos are dealing with from a cornerback depth chart perspective, Pat Surtain, K'Wan Williams, Ronald Darby, those are probably your three locked-in starters at corner. Behind them, Michael O, the kid, just brain farted, fourth round. Bassey, but who's the fourth round?
Damari Mathis.
Thank you. And plus then Michael O, hey, he's probably got a pretty solid path not only to the roster, but hey, we know Ronald Darby struggles to stay on the field.
You know what I can't vouch for? I see people in the comment section talking about trading Draymond Jones. Like, what are we on right now? Why is that even a thing? Like, no
I
way.
wonder what the impetus of that.
Because they signed DJ Jones. Like, okay, let's have both. Why not both? Draymond's going to be a star, man. He's going to be a Pro Bowler this year.
I hope so. But yeah, he's now your most tenured. He is.
Oh, that's probably where the discussion started.
I want the Broncos to re-sign, says Michael, Draymond Jones to a long-term deal after the Broncos pay Russell Wilson in a year. Well, you're going to have to probably make a decision on Draymond before that, because isn't he contract year? 2020, 2021, 22. No, third year. He'll get re-signed. Right, or wait, was he a 19 guy? Now I'm tripping, dude. He was the same class. He was a 19, 20, 21, 22. So fourth year, contract year. Hello. If he plays well, you're going to have to make a decision. He's one of those guys, Zach, that I think in the behind closed doors meetings going into a season, he's a guy that they talk about the George Paytons of a guy we're going to monitor and kind of earmark as a potential candidate for an in-season extension based on whether or not he performs. If he goes out there and starts crushing, he's a guy that, hey, new cap czar, start kind of putting the structure in place just in case, kind of have something ready to go type thing.
Yeah, I agree with this comment by CC. CC said, I think Draymond is somewhat underappreciated. I think very underappreciated. No one really outside of Denver knows his name, but I think that'll change come this season. We talked about the Broncos signing maybe Akeem Hicks, defensive lineman from the Bears, former Pro Bowler. Draymond Jones can be Akeem Hicks and so much more. His ceiling is so high. He can be that Jeffrey Simmons in the middle of that Broncos defense. Now I think he has the right coaching staff that's going to unlock his game-wrecking abilities. Draymond's in for a big year, man. I hope he gets himself paid because that would mean the Broncos defense would benefit from that.
Well, and if you think about it, each year that Draymond's been here, he's kind of had a more prominent guy ahead of him, even though, last year he was a full-time starter for the whole season. I'm trying to think. 2020 was Draymond. I'm going to go look at his game log real quick. But what I'm getting at here is Shelby's gone. I mean, Mike Purcell kind of took a step back the last couple of years ever since his injury. And Draymond's kind of the man. Now, DJ Jones comes in, but he's a different animal. DJ Jones is kind of a one-trick pony in the sense of he's here to stop the run. Like, he'll help get after the quarterback a little bit, but like his job is to consume dudes and allow the edge guys and the other rushers one-on-ones. That's what he's going to do. Now, if we look at Draymond, Zach, he only started 7 games last year, 8 the year prior. So this is going to be really his first season where he is like the, unvarnished, assumptive starter to open a season.
I don't remember an injury for Draymond Jones. I mean, refresh my memory. So why was he only starting that handful of games? It speaks to the Broncos coaching or lack thereof of the previous regime. Then you got Chase in here saying Draymond was 9th in pass rush win rate for interior defensive linemen last year, despite only playing, 8-9 games. So given a full 17-game schedule, being the man now in the Broncos defensive line, he's in for, I think, a big season.
Yeah, so it shows he was available for 16 of the 17 games last year, for what it's worth. And he still, as a 7-game starter, produced 5.5 sacks. The year prior, 6.5. So now try to extrapolate that over a full season where you're the man, like you are the starter. I think you're going to see some serious production from Draymond Jones. The biggest thing for Draymond, and the reason why he wasn't seeing the field, for being honest, he has never been a 4-eye defensive end that the coaches, at least the previous coaches anyway, felt like they could trust against the run. So he would come in on obvious kind of second longs where they're probably going to pass, third downs, and get after it from the inside. Now he's going to be on the field, majority snaps. Let's hope he has really developed his techniques and understanding of run stuffing and run fits. But Gary, what's up, dude, up in Canada? Thank you for that super chat, my brother. Great to see you. He says, is Chris Allen, the undrafted rookie edge rusher from Alabama, the next Shaq Barrett, Zach?
Hopefully. I mean, that's always the hope when you sign an undrafted guy in the 8th round, so to speak. But the Broncos really like this kid, man. They gave him a crap ton, relatively speaking, in terms of a signing bonus, guaranteed money after signing him as a college free agent from Alabama. If it wasn't for, I believe, a broken foot, he was a little injury battered in college. But if it wasn't for the injury last year, he probably could have been a second, third round pick. Comes from a big school, is really good against the run. He's a good pass rusher. He can pretty much do it all. So this is one guy, along with McMillian, I think is going to make a push for the Broncos' final roster.
We shall see. Yeah, you get him healthy. I mean, they're on the hook for some solid dollars for an undrafted rookie. So I think their plan is, even if he's not healthy in time to really throw down in camp, they're going to nurse him along. He'll be a practice squad fringe guy as a rookie. And if he ends up being healthy enough to be more than that, I think the Broncos are going to give him a chance to. But he's going to have to get in line, because once you get past Bradley Chubb, once you get past Randy Gregory, now you got Nick Bonito, you got Malik Reed playing on an RFA tender if he sticks anyway, and then Jonathan Cooper. Kendrick, dude, what's going on, big dog? Great to see you. Really appreciate you, my friend. Dude, seriously, Kendrick has become a bona fide Super Chat superstar this offseason, and especially the last couple of months, just consistent as the day is long. We really appreciate you, bro. He says, what's up, my guys? Wanted to ask a question. If Russ were to win a Super Bowl with us, would he be the first quarterback to win a Super Bowl with the team he beat in the Super Bowl? Hope you guys have a great week. MHH for life. Go Broncos. The answer to that question, Kendrick, is a resounding yes. He will actually, come week 1, become, Zach, the first quarterback to start a game for a team he defeated in the Super Bowl. So then that goes without saying that if he wins a Super Bowl, the answer to Kendrick's question, it's a yes.
How great would it be if he beat Seattle in the Super Bowl? I mean, just really storybook type season. But no, I mean, regardless, I think he's in for a career rejuvenation. And yeah, he would set that mark. But, one game at a time. Let's get a playoff berth first for the first time since 2015 and go from there.
Kind of cool. One thing on the subject of Russ, he's giving out his props today at the podium, giving props to the Judys, the Suttons, the Patricks. But then he also threw some props to Andrew Beck and Eric Saubert, or as he calls him, Saab. And then he mentions a couple of rookies, which if you're Greg Dulcich and you're Montrell Washington and Russell Wilson is unprompted mentioning your name at the podium on your first day. Remember, this is the first day where the rookies have joined the vets on the grass. You got to be feeling pretty good about yourself. He talked about how those two in particular, and Dulcich had a nice day today, caught a touchdown, but they're impressing him by showing up early to the building. They're one of the first in the building. That kind of thing catches a quarterback's attention.
Yeah, and Russell Wilson had input into drafting Dulcich. He signed off on that move. He advocated for that move, and not a surprise that he's supporting that move and supporting the player. But Montrell Washington, I'm telling you guys, if you hated the draft pick, which I don't understand the condemnation for it, you're going to like it comes the regular season when he's just blazing down the field on returns and maybe getting involved on offense. He is a playmaker, and if Russ signs off, then we all should give him the benefit of the old doubt.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting also what he had to say when he was asked about whether or not what has surprised him. It's kind of a weird question because maybe I wasn't surprised, but now you're going to ask me if I've been surprised, if anything has surprised me about Tim Patrick, Courtland Sutton, and just the wide receiver room as a whole. Russ goes, quote, surprised me. And he kind of pauses like, I knew that they were dedicated to the game. Their talent is off the charts. Tim Patrick, Courtland Sutton, obviously Jerry Jeudy. Those guys are arguably some of the best guys to play this game right now. I think the thing about them that you love and that jumps off is the little things. It's actually the understanding of the game and how they sit in the front of the room and they ask questions. They are constantly learning, hey, if I did this, what would you think about this and that? Those kind of questions and those level of questions. What I really admire is their work ethic in the weight room. It's a little thing, but how they get there early and how they're ready to go every day. So it's kind of like if you've ever coached, Phil, what's up, dude? We'll get to that. Next thing. If you've ever coached your kids in sports, or even if you're trying to kind of mentor, groom one of your kids who's maybe taking another level up in competition, trying to make a high school team or something like that, one of the things you're going to tell them is, hey, when try and be a leader, even if you're new or you're young, try and be a leader. How does that work? Hey, get there first. When they call for you to line up for a drill or something, always try to be the first in line. Little things like that, because those impressions sync with coaches. They sync in with leadership. Russ is noticing that from not only rookies, Zach, but his receiving corps.
Too many people forget the human element of football and the psychology behind it. And first impressions in life, guys, whether it's relationships or business partnerships, it matters. Whether it's football or whether you're talking about your random friend down the road, first impressions matter. And these players have made good first impressions on Russell Wilson. So it was a weird question. Why would he be surprised? But I'm going to say poor KJ Hamler didn't get his name called. He's the forgotten man in that Broncos receiving corps. So it's a good problem to have, though. If you have so many receivers, you can't rattle them all off the top of your head when you're asked a question.
We are at 50 minutes in the stream. We got a little bit of time left, guys, but any burning topics, questions you want to get them in the chat because we're about out of time. Phil, what would it cost us to get Akeem Hicks, the Bears' former Pro Bowl defensive lineman, and do you want him? Zach, since you wrote about this subject for us over the weekend, why don't you answer this one?
Yeah, I did a little digging, and SpotTrack projected Hicks's market value to be, I think it was 2 years, $11 million, so 5.5 a year. I don't know that I would spend that. I don't think you need Akeem Hicks. Like, you have Draymond Jones, you brought in DJ Jones, you have some younger players, you brought back Deshaun Williams, you drafted Henningsen, who is going to be maybe a contributor on that line. You have Mike Purcell still. You don't really need Akeem. I would put that 5.5 aside, use it for a rainy day fund or maybe for Russell Wilson's contract. Be a luxury move I think the Broncos do not need to make.
If it was the 3 years ago version of Akeem Hicks, I'd be a little bit more amenable to spending some of that Evan Mathis money, but I don't know. I could be persuaded because you want to see Draymond thrive in his role as hey, you're the guy starter. DJ Jones going to start at nose tackle. Who's going to take that other defensive end spot? Multiple guys in the running for it, including Mike Purcell, more of an entrenched and well-paid vet. The rookie Wuzurike, the 4th-round pick, is going to factor in. He's my dark horse for that job, by the way. But what about McTelvin Agim, who 2 years ago was this team's 3rd-round pick and hasn't done squizot since he has been a Bronco? Are you going to turn the corner, bro? Or is this a classic failure to launch? A lot of once you get past DJ Jones, if we're being honest, like, I love Draymond and his upside, don't get me wrong. But when you get past DJ Jones in terms of proven production on the defensive line, it's kind of sketchy. So there is an argument to be made. Hey, maybe you need one more solid vet in there that can really give you some stability, Zach, especially as it relates to stopping the run, because, hey, Draymond can get after the Q, no doubt. Same with the Wuzurike. He played edge often for Iowa State, but can you stuff the run, especially if you end up having any injury issues with Bradley Chubb and you got to rely on some of these other guys on the edge? Maybe you could use one more guy.
Isn't that why you brought back Jewell and brought in Alex Singleton, though? 2 good run stuffers. Not every player on the defensive line has to be good against the run or great against the run. And I think something you said added to my argument where I forgot about Wuzurike. I don't know why I did, but you have another guy. You talked about proven. I'm taking the potential. I don't think Akeem Hicks is past 30, I believe now. So over the hill kind of guy, getting up there in age. He would be 5.5 a year, let's say $5 million. Is that worth it? Over giving Wuzurike reps, over making Draymond Jones the man, over finally giving McTelvin Agim some reps after he was in Vic Fangio's doghouse for multiple years. I'm just always a proponent of giving the young players a chance and not bringing in old vets just to say we have an old vet at the spot.
Albert, hey, that's a newer name. Throwing down some stars on Facebook. Welcome. We do appreciate that. The stars, the super chats, as you can see on the ticker below, are things that help support the channel, help support Zach and I as hosts, help support Scott, who does a lot of work to make sure these podcasts happen every single night. So appreciate that, Albert. He says, good evening. What do you think of getting a player on defense like Lyle Alzado? I think they broke the mold, dude, with him, right? Unfortunately, with Lyle no longer with us for a long time, no longer with us, but who? you got to give me a name out there. I don't think there's a name out there that even really fits that bill. But if there is a guy on this roster that has a chance to be a similar to Lyle Alzado, it's Draymond Jones if everything comes together.
Yeah, we shall see. Hopefully, again, I hope Draymond has a big year. I hope he gets paid because he's only going to make the Broncos defense that much better. But Ben Wallman hopping in. Good to see you, Ben. Thank you for chiming in. Ben wants to know, what do you think Damari Mathis will do impact-wise this year? I think people would be surprised by him this year. What do you think, Chad?
Yeah, that's the thing is people kind of got a little underwhelmed by the second round pick, the third round pick. The fourth round pick, though, is where you go around the horn, and just about everybody was stoked on the value, not just Broncos draft guys like Trickle and Nick and Scott, guys like that. But I mean, like national guys were stoked on Denver's 2 fourth-round picks, including Mathis and Uzurike. Mathis is making this roster. I think it's like a near shoe-in for him. OJ Muti are going to be the two main depth guys. We'll see what happens with Bassie, but I don't think so. Impact, it just depends on what happens up the depth chart in terms of injuries. If hopefully Ronald Darby stays healthy, hopefully Pat Surtain stays healthy, and if that happens, you're probably not going to see much of Mathis outside of special teams.
Exactly.
But I feel relatively confident in saying that if the Broncos do got to turn to this kid at any point, he's solid. It's going to be interesting to see how he develops.
Yeah, you nailed it. He's going to make a big instant impact on special teams. I don't know about defense quite yet because they have healthy cornerbacks ahead of him. But to echo your point, Chad, he was a steal. I think Mathis could have been a third-round draft pick, and I like the fact he could play inside or outside if necessary. So they have a versatile cornerback who will see some reps on defense, provide some insurance while also providing a day-one impact on special teams. Love the player a lot. Their fourth round was the best round. Mathis and Uzurike, easily.
Last question, and then we got to go for tonight, guys, from Trevor Sandell on Facebook. He says, do you guys put any stock in Quinn Miners, a.k.a. the Belly, getting reps at center? Is he going to push Cushenberry out of that spot? Thoughts? No, I mean, they're cross-training all the interior guys, even a lot of the tackles. Like Compton, he'll play a little guard. I wouldn't be surprised if Billy Turner plays a little guard, too, in terms of practice and camp and OTAs and all that stuff. When it comes out in the wash, Turner's probably going to be a tackle, but no, I don't think, you want guys to lean into what they do best. As coaches, you want to lean into what guys do best. And Quinn Miners really did kind of a cram session to get some snapping under his belt, as he missed all of the 2020 season because his league didn't play because of the pandemic, and then gets into the pre-draft process and has to fight to get noticed. Wisconsin Whitewater and all that. So he added that to his game, and the Broncos had him snapping a little last summer, the previous coaching staff. But when it all comes out in the final analysis, Zach, I don't think he's being viewed really right now as a center option because he could be a very dominant guard.
We talked about it last night. I think it's down to Glasgow or Cushenberry for center. And who would play right guard if they move Miners to center? I mean, you have to have a guy waiting in the wings. They don't really have anyone else. Maybe Netani Muti, is he ready to play at right guard starting right away? You said you don't think so, Chad, based on the quotes. So you always have to have your plan B when you move one of these players around. Who is your plan B at right guard? We don't even know their plan A at right guard or center just yet. That's why I want to see the offseason play out and see what Butch Barry is going to do with these linemen.
Your right guard is supposed to be your power guy because, the strong side, that's your strong side. That's got to be your point of attack guy. In the zone blocking scheme, though, it's not quite that same demand, although that is going to be your strong side. You're prioritizing a different sort of right guard. And Graham Glasgow, frankly, was quite underwhelming to me as a right guard while he's been healthy as a Bronco in the former power scheme. But maybe if they did go with the Miners at center and you're going, well, who's going to play right guard? It would be, in all likelihood, Graham Glasgow. He would kind of fit more as a zone guy, not the strongest dude, but athletic enough and smart enough too. That's the thing about Graham, very smart dude. For what it's worth, that's probably the backup plan if they didn't put Miners at right guard, I would guess, or Muti.
I do like what Glasgow said because he took a massive pay cut. One of the first moves the Broncos made this offseason was restructuring Graham Glasgow. It seemed like they went out of their way to make that a priority early on. And he took a $5.3 million pay cut to stay with the Broncos because he said when it came down to go somewhere else or stay here, I'd rather stay here. And then recently he said it came down to, I love the area. My wife loves it here. I like playing here. And I feel like it was the best option I had coming off the injury I had. It's just the reality of the situation. Remember, he's coming off a broken leg, and that injury included ligament damage. He was out there at OTAs today, but smart guy to realize that he was probably going to get cut. He was expensive. He wasn't performing to his $44 million contract, and he ate a lot of his salary to hang around. In what capacity, we do not know. But as I wrote at the bottom, I think he's just happy to be a part of the equation, whether as a backup or a starter.
It's going to be fun to see how it all shakes out. But guys, that was a lot of fun. It's already been an hour. We got to go. We'll see you on Wednesday.
Yes, sir. That was the Huddle Up Podcast. We are off tomorrow night, back on Wednesday night, same time, same place, 6 o'clock Mountain, 8 o'clock Eastern. Until that time, follow us on Twitter at Huddle Up Pod. You can follow the main account on Twitter at Mile High Huddle. You can follow Chad on Twitter at Chad and Jensen. You can follow myself at Kelberman NFL. Follow Scott on Twitter at Scout Kennedy. If you guys want some of our merch, you guys know what it is. You guys know where it is. HuddleUpPod.com. Get your merch on right now. And also Facebook.com/Mile Huddle Pod. Like that page. Follow that page. And guys, if you haven't, please go to Apple Podcasts and leave your football priest a 5-star review for a chance to win some merch each and every month. But as you can see ticking below, subscribe, like, and share this video and every video you see on the MHH channel. It really helps us grow and reach more Broncos fans just like you.
That it does. Shout out to Gary Blah Blah, pardon me, on YouTube, Michael Ronquillo, Kendrick Ware, Super Chat Superstars tonight. Much love and respect. We really do appreciate that. And then also, shout out to these great supporters on Facebook. See if this will work. We can do it. We can do it this way. Go away. Phil McLaughlin finishing on top, throwing down. Very generous of you, big dog. GLP, Ben Wallman, Andrew Baker, Eric Weber, George Fox, and Albert Day. Much love and respect. Have a great start to your week, guys. And as Zach mentioned, we'll see you Wednesday, but you'll have Broncos for breakfast on the Bright, followed by Building the Broncos tomorrow night. And then we'll see you the next day.
Take care, and as always, guys, go Broncos.